Hi everyone, my name is Sayeth and this is my blog and I'm here for awesome Micael Carpenter from the album show.
Awesome Micael Carpenter. Sorry. Awesome Micael Carpenter's in the other room. No, man. Great to be here, man.
How do you choose a topic for a song?
How do I choose a topic for a song? Do you mean for one of my songs or for one of the shows? Or what do you mean?
One of your songs.
One of my songs. Well, usually I try to write from a very literal point of view. I tend to be writing about my life or writing about the life of people around me. So sometimes I'll see somebody in a situation and it will inspire me to write. Or often, like I've got a note in my phone where anytime I think of what would be an ideal song lyric or an ideal chorus hook, I just jot it in there. So I've got about 80 songs I've got to write at that point. So I think that as songwriters, I think you're always observers. You're always looking around at situations and seeing whether there's something you can think about. And one of the other things I've learned from my good friend Alan Caswell is if something looks too obvious or too cliche, put a twist on it. And so it's one of the things that as a songwriter you get used to always having your antenna up.
Yeah. Awesome. What are some of the steps in your songwriting process?
Look, the main step for me from a songwriting process, I love writing songs. I don't necessarily find songwriting hard. However, I say that I'm finding it's very easy for me to write the same song over and over again. So I force myself to challenge myself to write differently. The hardest thing for me is setting aside time to do it. Like it's a busy time, and giving songwriting a priority is a tricky thing for me because I don't release records that often and there's always so much to do, but I love writing. So the hardest thing for me is avoiding cliches and finding time to do it. So once I find time to do it, like I've written a couple of songs over the last couple of weeks because I've now got a target. So I tend to write for projects very specifically. So that the biggest step for me is having a direction. If I'm just sitting there trying to write, I tend to not write.
What is the biggest challenge you face as an artist today?
I think the biggest challenge is that's a really great question. The biggest challenge is separating yourself from success, like the idea of success, and doing it for the right reasons. I think that it's very easy because there's so much music being created out there to devalue what you do yourself by going, oh, well, I haven't got 1 million streams, so what I do hasn't got any worth. I have to remind myself constantly that the reason that I'm a musician is because I'm a musician. It's not because of some arbitrary measure of success or anything like that. And I try to encourage all of my clients in the studio to remember that they're doing it because they have to do it. For me, I'm a songwriter because I have to write songs. That's the currency of my life is songs. So it's the biggest challenge is to remember that just doing it is actually success. Everything else beyond that, award nominations or charts or streams, that's bonus stuff, but it's not the reason why we do it. And that's the big challenge.
How do you deal with criticism? Criticism, both good and bad, about your career.
Well, I tell you what, if you're doing anything creative, anything, whether you're an artist or a photographer and stuff like that, you've got to develop a thick skin, which I do not have. So I don't cope very well with that. My answer to that is always try to operate at the highest level I possibly can, so that I'm always doing the absolute best I possibly can. And if people still criticize it, that's on them. It's not on me. There's limits to how much we can do, like I'm a good singer, but I'm not as great a singer as Maddie or Anthony, but I always try to push myself to get better. If people criticize me at my best, that has to be their problem. It can't be my problem. But it's very, very hard, especially with things like the album show where we put videos up and put a video up on YouTube. It's open season at that point for people to comment about, oh, why is he playing it that way? Or why is he singing it that way? Or he shouldn't be doing it that way. And you've got to brush some of that off. Criticism is hard because, and it's that thing too, you might we'll put a video up on YouTube and we might have 40 positive comments and 1 negative one, and that's the one we think about. So criticism is very dangerous. By the same token, I take on good wishes and I do, without basking in and becoming a big head on it, I go and look at positive comments because they fuel me and they inspire me to continue to want to do better, especially in things like the album show or even in my solo career. People talk about my songwriting and my music in a glowing kind of way, and so I take that on as well. You can't. I think the important thing with all these things is balance. You can't just look at the negative because it'll kill you.
What do you have coming up with the album show?
So much, man. It's really really growing. It's growing quite quickly. We're pushing more of our shows to kind of theatre level, like where we are here today at the Avoca Beach Theatre, where we're thinking bigger. We're always trying to think of new concepts so that we've got new things to bring in so that people keep on coming back, because you can only play the same show over and over again. We're looking at new venues. We're bringing some new people on board so that people don't get fatigued from doing it. Our regulars have been doing it for 6 years now, and I'm sure that there are times when they just want a night off from it. So like any expanding business, we're being very, very careful about how we do it. But there's a lot of new venues coming on and some new shows. We're always talking about new shows, and it's very exciting. Like even this show we're doing here tonight, we did it once last year, but we're doing a run of it this year and a run later on in the year to just try and make it really bulletproof so that we're operating, again, at the highest level. So, we're just continuing to push ourselves to be better, because if we're better, then the communication with the audience and the joy that we all feel becomes more pure. That seems like a very kind of naive way of looking at it, but it's actually true. If we're comfortable and having a great time, so does our audience.
How do you usually approach a new collaboration? Do you have a quick certain process?
Oh, yeah. So as you've probably all worked out, I'm a talker. So whenever I'm sitting with a new person, and I do a lot of co-writing with kind of new people or inexperienced people, and my publisher will put me in a room with people and I'll be the senior writer. And so every collaboration starts with a conversation, getting a sense of where people are in their life and how they're feeling and what's going on, and poking, because some people are very, very guarded, and some people come into a collaboration process very nervous about their own abilities or what they've got to offer. And then I've always got my list of notes or kind of songwriting ideas that I can throw to get started. It's funny, I will always, if I'm working with somebody new as a songwriter, I will read out song ideas from my notes and I'll watch them. So I'll say things, and then you might say 4 or 5 titles and they won't react, and then there'll be one where they'll just tilt their head and you know that you've got interest in it. So it becomes an extreme case of kind of people watching and watching how people react. And once they react to things, then you've got something you can start to build something on. So it's me very much just talking to make sure that they feel comfortable. So kind of like what I'm doing here right now.
Thank you so much. Please log on to the album show and sayethsmusic.com.
Yeah, that's right. So you can find the album show on Facebook and Instagram, and our YouTube channel, which has got like heaps and heaps of videos. But mostly go on, subscribe to this blog. It's good work. It's the most important thing.
Thank you so much, Micael.
Thanks, guys.